vital. I just want to revert back to Omeka, who was under siege considerably
Exactly.
from the floor. I just want you to respond in a very short time.
Yeah, I think I was completely misunderstood. I meant to say, and that is what I'm saying, and I started on the premise that our culture is against domestic violence and that no man has any justification to perpetuate violence against a woman on the basis of culture. I made that as, if you like, I flagged that off, that we need to know where we're coming from. We do not support it. Now, I didn't say that the Igbo culture was, one beautiful culture that, where you don't have any violence at all. No. So I think I need to be applauded. You need to clap for me for reminding us about our culture and not attacking me. I am speaking up for the women by saying that there is no cultural justification to hit a woman.
I just want to revert back to the audience with the question about the bride price. Does the bride price at all have any bearing on domestic violence? The concept that when I pay something for you, you are my property, you're the family property, I can do whatever I want with you.
The whole idea of bride price is just to pay your respect to the family that you're going into, to say you have done very well. There is actually no amount of money you can pay a family for their daughter that they've brought up for so many years. It's impossible. In my tribe, in my culture, when you pay bride price, you probably pay 25 cents. What does that mean? Are you paying 25 cents to the family? Do you think it's worth the woman? It's an insult if you think you're paying 25 cents, and you feel, well, that is what she's worth.
To say the way we were brought up was wrong, or the way we were believed, in terms of the position of women in society is wrong. What is it that we can do?
The dowry, and I read sociology, and I can say that of all African, East, West, North African culture, the dowry is not seen as a means of payment. You don't pay dowry to acquire a wife. We understand it is the value upon which we place on women. We want you to suffer before you get a wife. In some cultures, in parts of Igbo land, you spend a lot of money to get a wife because of the culture, of the importance we place on women. And do you know what? Even in our culture, we have the name Neka, which means the mother is supreme. We recognize that the man is the head of the family, but we say that the mother is the greatest because we recognize the importance of mothers in our family life. And that is why we say you don't just come and pick up a woman and say, that's my wife. You have to know what you're getting. And that's if you look at the understanding of culture. So we don't have to misunderstand this with the European concept of this, that, hey, in Africa, you have to pay to buy a woman. That is completely different. But permit me to talk about this culture again. And let me speak from someone who, as a solicitor, I deal with domestic violence and I deal with some of the issues. Some of the issues about domestic violence stresses from our culture. We come from a different culture in Africa and we're here. And there's the interaction between African culture and European culture. And when I said earlier, some of our more liberated women folk there, with due respect, felt that in Europe, the concept of marriage is one equality between a man and a woman. It is not so in Africa. And it is not meant to put down the woman. Say, for instance, an Irish woman might say, hey, honey, go get your dinner and, go microwave your stuff or get your food. You say that to an African man is an invitation for quarrel.
I think we kind of like taking the whole issue of culture away from the topic. The domestic violence is pretty much tied in with culture. And now because the culture part of it is not practiced as much as it's supposed to be practiced in Africa, the way it is here, then when women stand up for themselves and try and voice out, then it becomes a different issue altogether. It's either you're disrespectful, you're financially stable, you don't need me as a husband, all sorts of excuses. But the matter of the truth of the matter is women are standing up because at least there's a voice for them here. But you can't do that in Africa just because it's all tied up with culture. And so I don't see the reason why we should divert away from culture. Culture is a very strong issue here.
I just want to come back to you guys. Yeah. We have looked at tradition we have looked at culture, we have looked at religion, and basically socialization has a huge bearing on how you treat your woman or your man or the other way around. Is there a solution to this? Is it possible?
There was the statement that was passed earlier on concerning the fact that the man is the head of the home, which I ascribe to. But then I want to make this statement in connection with that. The head sits on the neck, okay? And if the neck does not budge, the head doesn't move, okay? You imagine yourself having had a stiff neck before, and you know how it feels like.
Yeah.
And I will tell you from my personal experience, I don't even know how much money I have in my bank account because my wife handles all that. I allow her to do it. Okay. So I believe that it's an issue of personality. I do the cooking at home. I don't allow my wife to do it.
However, what is the way forward? Maybe we can learn from the South Africans because they have put into place, for example, they have selected people, the magistrate, the local magistrate, appoints people. I was appointed as a justice of peace and a commissioner of oaths and an assessor in the court for domestic violence. So I control the police stations when it comes to domestic violence, and the counsellor and the lawyer and the solicitor and the social worker. But the governments, if they do not give these people statutory powers where they can prosecute the men and the women, but let us be honest about it. We have to inculcate and come back to that education. Empower the women, educate them, show them what are not only their responsibilities, but what are their rights as well. And the same with the men. What are your rights? And of course, what are your responsibilities? Let there be mutual love and respect, and then we will minimize the problem of domestic violence.
And I think we need to begin to realize that and accept that no matter how we are provoked, no matter the justification, no matter what she has done, we must not hit her. And then we must not, abuse her in any other way. That we must be able to talk, communicate, and deal with the issues that we have. I think one other issue that is lacking here in Ireland, we have so many associations, and it's a good thing, but somehow they all primarily deal with women. We do not have associations, support groups for men. I find that, a lot of men that have come in the last 2-3 years to join their families, and they're floating, no work, they're in direct provision. There's a lot of pent-up anger. They've come to see themselves status reduced, There's a whole lot of conflict there.
The reason why we continue to mention women in all this is that it is a power and control thing. And in the majority of cases, it is the men that have the physical power. And in the majority of cases, men are more educated than women. And women are constantly having to look up to men for economic support and social support and cultural support because of the cultural, issues where men are actually supposed to be macho. So when you look at the power balance and control balance, it's tilting in favor of the men. So then domestic violence is always against women more than men, which is why we are talking about, women and the need to support. But Emeka's point as well, that there is need to make sure that we build the capacity of men and support them. To even raise awareness that domestic violence is wrong is vitally important going forward. I just want to hear from Itai as well.
Well, certainly, I think I agree with all the panelists that, there's no justification whatsoever for any violence within the home, especially that meted out by men and women. I would also say that if you take it on from a human rights perspective, in looking at legal processes, what should happen is that anyone who does that should be dealt with fully by the law. But unfortunately, when you look at, say, the Irish system, and looking particularly at the, Africans who are here, the legislation that presides over immigration doesn't actually have any clauses that deal with this